You know, for the original Street Fighter 4 theme song, Flo Rida has a verse on it. What a legend. He could really do it all.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Nostalgia Beat podcast. I am Dee, and this is...
My name is Mark.
And we love music.
That is true.
That's it.
That is true.
And the Nostalgia Beat podcast is a podcast that we just started to talk about music that meant a lot to us in the past and still means a lot to us now. This is our first episode, like our actual episode. We're actually going to be talking about like the meat of what this podcast is about.
Exactly.
Which are albums that meant a lot to us when we grew up.
Exactly.
Or still mean a lot to us now. And today's episode, if you had not seen the title, is about Coldplay's 2008 album, Viva la Vida. So, Mark, do you want to take it away and maybe talk a little bit about...
Absolutely. I spent, minutes upon minutes researching this album on Wikipedia, so I have all of the best possible information here.
Absolutely.
As we all know, Viva la Vida was released back in 2008. Can you imagine? That feels so long ago now.
that was a decade, over a decade ago.
Famously produced by Brian Eno, and I didn't know this before, but he was joined by John Hopkins, who, famous producer, famous musician, Rick Simpson, and Marcus Draves. Marcus also worked on Neon Bible, which makes a lot of sense.
What?
I had never known this before, but yeah, so they had a great team of producers with them for this one. And the band themselves kind of said that this was a reaction to kind of their place in the music industry at the time. They were a huge band, obviously. They had hit after hit after hit. But after X and Y especially, they didn't get tons of critical love. The band also talked about how they were getting a little bored of their current music writing process. And so they really wanted to switch things up with their then latest album. So with the help of Brian Eno and his friends, they really branched out there. Brian Eno, of course, really encouraged them to take a lot of instrumental risks and lyrical risks. I think Brian Eno took them to like Spanish cathedrals and like helped them build their own instruments and stuff for this one.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he actually took them to Spanish.
Yeah,
they really went in on this.
They went so far for this one, which is very cool.
Which makes sense when you hear the album.
Exactly. Obviously relative to their past albums, they took a lot of interesting creative risks with this one, and they kind of switched up their process of making music here. And to that point, I found an interview where Chris Martin talks about how Brian Eno literally hypnotized the band as part of the creative process. Brian Eno apparently is good friends with like a hypnotist.
Oh my god!
So he brought him in, and the band would just like get put into this like trance-like state apparently, and Brian Eno would walk around them like, either giving them ideas, trying to like seed ideas, or talking about like, oh, don't worry about the critics, don't worry about the people who are like, oh, Coldplay, who cares about them? And like Chris Martin said, it put them in a very interesting headspace to write this music. So I guess it worked.
How was the public perceiving them at this point? Because I know now, like you hear the word Coldplay. I will fight to defend Coldplay. Because they meant so much to me.
Yeah.
Like they were one of the first bands in high school that like I really kind of followed like the fandom and like kind of understood like what was going on like from a fan perspective. But I wasn't cognizant back then of like the hatred that they were getting,
right?
Or if they had any, because now like obviously you hear Coldplay and they're almost on the same level as like Nickelback and like Imagine Dragons. They're like one of the bands that when you want to say you like a shitty band, quote unquote, you talk about them.
Yeah.
But was that like, were they already at that point in 2008?
Basically, yeah.
Because I wasn't aware of it. I didn't care.
There was that famous joke in 40-Year-Old Virgin where they're like, you know how I know you're gay? Because you listen to Coldplay. So like, I think that was kind of an encapsulation of how people felt about them. They're like, they're very hard on their sleeve band. So, apparently that's not manly. And that was kind of the reaction. They're like kind of a girly, sissy band. And like any band that's popular, is gonna get some hate. But then like critics as well also were being a little harder on them at the time. The reaction to X and Y, which even though at the time was their biggest selling album, a lot of the critics were getting kind of tired of their sound. X and Y is criticized a lot for being really overblown, but not having maybe too much substance to it. I was reading the Pitchfork review of Viva la Vida, and they mentioned how in the reaction to X and Y, the New York Times music reviewer mentioned how they were getting kind of insufferable at that point. And they make the point to mention that New York Times music reviewer is like famously level-headed. So like to make that comment about Coldplay is, it means something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I think the general public and critical consensus at the time was not super great for our boys.
For our boys.
Yeah, our poor boys.
What was I going to say? What's his name? Why am I Chris Martin. Chris Martin and the gang. I'm
yes.
blanking. Chris Martin and the gang.
Mm-hmm.
The boys.
The boys.
Should we see if anyone in the chat has made any comments so far?
Someone likes your shirt?
Yeah, we're going to talk about this. And don't worry, we're going to get to this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about it.
So that's some background about the album.
Yeah, exactly.
So, why don't we talk about like our own personal experience with Viva la Vida? Like, how did we both start? Like, how did we find out about Coldplay, and when did we listen to Viva la Vida for the first time?
That is a good question. I think my first exposure was to the single Viva la Vida, as I assume most people had that experience. And I very distinctly remember there was like an Apple commercial. I think it was probably an iPod commercial, right?
Yes.
The one with, and it was like them in like harsh like black and white lighting, and there were like explosions of color behind them.
I remember that.
Like, say what you will about Apple, but I really like a lot of their promotional material, and like clearly it worked on me because I still remember that Viva la Vida commercial for their iPod or whatever. So I think that might have been one of my first like real my first exposure to this album. And of course I had heard of Coldplay before. It's impossible to escape like Clocks and Yellow and stuff, but I never really listened to the band. And so upon listening to Viva la Vida, I was quite surprised at what I was hearing, because it's so different from their past material in a lot of ways. So yeah, it was all because of Apple though, which is very funny.
So that was back in like 2009, maybe? 2009, around that time. Mm-hmm. I have, like, my story is very similar. It was also, my exposure to Coldplay also probably, I'd heard Clocks, and in fact, the first time I heard Clocks, I think, was actually in a Weird Al Yankovic, like, parody thing that I'd heard, like, a couple years before, and I'm like, what is this song? And then I realized later it was Clocks. That was the first time I heard I remember being cognizant of Coldplay as a band.
Excellent.
But and I heard Yellow, but when Viva la Vida started to get the airplay that it did on radio, and this is back when radio was still relevant.
Oh yeah, driving to school. Your
like in high school,
cranked on the,
parents
pop
put on
music radio.
top 40, like adult contemporary radio. Like, what's going on? Yeah, it was Coldplay. It was always Viva la Vida playing.
Yep.
And I don't remember if that song to me. I'm not sure if I heard it being overplayed and hated it first, and then found Coldplay later, or I liked it and then later hated the fact that it was so overplayed.
That's
but
fair.
Somehow, me hearing that song led to me through, I think, mutual friends I'd made like on the internet at the time who liked a lot of similar music. We liked like a bunch of like the top 40 like alt, like not even alt rock, like the pop rock hits that were on the radio, like The Fray and like The Script and those other bands back in high school that I was super into. Coldplay were like the kings of like accessible like pop rock, right? So
very true.
So everyone I knew was a fan of them, and I ended up listening at one point to Viva la Vida, and then was like taken aback by it. Was one of the first albums that I remember just being like, oh, this is such a cohesive whole. Like it's not just like it's not something that
It's like it's not just singles and like
not just singles and filler. No, it was actually like a full like piece from beginning to end, and it was one of the first and still one of the few not few, but one of like I think gold tier albums in my head that like I could listen to the whole way through and not skip a song, because it's meant to be enjoyed that way.
Yeah, they talk about actually in a couple interviews that the band really wanted to create a full album experience, because even back then, like, people always talk about how the album is dying, but like even back in 2008 that was a problem, because singles have so much power, obviously, and that's even more the case now. But they wanted to create a whole cohesive experience.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the reason they have a couple of like the double tracks on here, is that they wanted to keep it at 10 songs on the track list. They didn't want to like overload the track list and like scare people away from listening to the whole thing. So that was their motivation between having the, Sticking Together, Rain of Love, and Lovers in Japan and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know that either before I did my research.
That's cool. Yeah. and I appreciate songs like that are kind of symphonic in that they kind of have parts.
Oh yeah, I love that a lot.
What was it? I was going to, which is the one? Several of them are split up into pieces.
Yeah,
but I was listening to this album, I listened to it several times this week, but I was driving in the car this morning and just the transitions between pieces, like it's just, again, so cohesive, and it's
it all works really well together.
It works super well together. So, what memories do you have listening to Viva la Vida?
I definitely remember this being one of the first CDs I ever bought.
Really?
And I was very excited about that. Yeah. So, I try to get it, especially if we're going on like a road trip or something, or we're in the car for a long time.
Yeah.
I definitely try my hardest to get that in a CD player. So I'm sure my parents got annoyed of that. So that was big for me. And what was I gonna say? Anyway, you can go.
Sure. I'll
come back to that.
we'll come back to Mark. So my experience, again, I kind of touched on it. Coldplay was one of the first bands that I kind of joined. Again, I wasn't as big into like their group of fans, like their following, as other people were, but I knew there were forums. There was like one called Coldplaying or something that I joined. I wasn't active in it, but it was cool to see fandom online, and to see people so like in love with this band.
That's so funny, because I feel like the way fandom interacts online now is so different.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
Yeah. Back in the day, you used to have like a billion different fan sites for everything, and now everyone's just like on Twitter, and everyone's like bumping elbows all the time, and it's insane.
It's like Twitter and Reddit. I feel like Reddit is the closest thing we have now to the forums of like ages past.
That is true.
And I grew up, like, my experience in fandom in high school and like middle school was being a part of these fan forums. So like the first band related fan thing I ever joined was when I was really into Maroon 5 in middle school, right? Okay. Their first album's good, okay, but maybe we'll talk about that another episode.
That could be another episode.
That's maybe another episode. But I remember like finding the forum, Maroon 5's forum, back in 2007 or whatever it was, and like making an account and being like so amazed that there were other people you could talk to around the world on this forum. And then that's like, I started off there, and I eventually found like the Coldplay forum and stuff in high school. But that kind of community on forums, like, it exists in a lot of ways. We have Discord servers now. There is still, I think that's another thing. Discord servers are another like branch, like, are one of the like descendants of the forum. So in a lot of ways, like, fandom hasn't completely died, but that like kind of, I wouldn't call it archaic, but like the olden days, the olden days of internet fandom. I remember like Coldplay being one of my like fondest memories, like in that time of my life, being like learning about that. I'm rambling, but yeah, Coldplay, like cool. That's what one of the things that I connect Coldplay to is a band, is to that era. But then Viva la Vida, because I got into Coldplay at that era and I fell so in love with the album, they were also like the second or third concert I'd ever been to. I think they were the second concert that I'd actually ever been to.
Amazing.
And which makes this the second t-shirt. This is an actual vintage 2009.
Oh, man.
Or was it 2009? Yeah, it was a 2009. God. Shirts from 2009.
Nice.
Coldplay Viva la Vida tour. Let's see. Should I turn around? Can you see the back?
Let's see.
Let's see if we can see the back if I put this here. Can you see the back I don't mean to flash my butt on the camera, but
wow.
like,
Is this a thirst
we got
trap?
Can you read?
We can see there is text on.
There's text on the back. Mark, can you read it for me? Like, what does it say?
Coldplay tour. And then it just lists all the places. Let's
Doesn't
see if we
even
can
give
find,
a date.
It doesn't give the date, which is very
that's
funny.
frustrating.
It just gives all the cities.
Yeah, this was the 2009 Viva la Vida tour. So the year after they released it, released the album, I was so blessed to have Coldplay be my second ever live show, because they put on, to this day still, I mean, they have the money to do it. They put on such a great live show, and I remember like being so in awe with like everything, like the production. All the confetti was another thing.
Oh yeah.
And then I had like really cheap like lawn seating tickets, but I don't know if you're familiar with Coldplay shows, but they actually like have like a B stage where they'll come out.
Oh, that's fun.
And it turned out that the B stage was like right next to where my lawn seat
Wild.
was. So I was like 3 people away from Chris Martin.
That's very cool.
That show like really defined, I feel like, concerts for me, and it really
what
set a high bar.
What a big one to go to, like.
So yeah,
that's crazy.
I had to buy the shirt, and it's in pretty good. I mean, I have a few holes in it. I got like this giant hole. You see this?
Fun.
See this giant hole? I don't want to tear it, but maybe I'll turn it into a crop top.
Nice.
But yeah, this shirt is memories. I have memories from seeing Coldplay. I'm trying to think if oh yeah, the other thing about that show, I remember that show as well, because it was in the summer. It was in July, so it would have been, wow, like 11 years now.
That's crazy.
11 years ago, I went to this show, and I was in a summer school class in high school. I was taking chemistry over the summer, so I didn't have to take it during the school year, like a fucking nerd. And
Nice.
but unlike a nerd, I was not studying for the chemistry test I was supposed to be studying for. And this was a day or two after Michael Jackson's death. And I remember that because Coldplay ended up doing like a tribute during one of their, like, on the B stage. They played like Billie Jean or something.
That's cool.
But I remember that because that night, my dad was like, Dee, I heard you have a test tomorrow. I'm like, oh. I got it. I'm great. Nothing. It's totally fine. And I took the test the next day. I was extremely tired. And I was wearing this shirt. I wore this shirt the next day. So like, if my chemistry teacher knew anything about it, like, it also, I mean,
what if your chemistry teacher was also there?
Maybe she was also there. So like, maybe she was like, what are you doing? Also, I wonder if she was like looking at the shirt, the art, like, because the art that the album art is based on, there was this lady just with her boobs full out, you know, like Viva la Revolution and all. But yeah, I think she stared at my shirt a few times, like, what is this bitch wearing this shirt with like boobs on it on a day she has to take this chemistry test? Again, I'm deflecting from the fact that I failed that chemistry test. Majorly failed it.
Man.
I got like a 62 or something. And I was like...
Nailed it.
I mean, I guess I could have gotten like below a 60.
I mean, could have been worse, I guess.
But yeah, I bombed that test.
Nice.
And I remember my mom like trying to convince me not to go at some point. Being like, like, is it worth it in the end? It was worth it. Because look where I am now. Like, I graduated college and like... Yeah, that flunked test, like, it's fine, I made it. So this isn't to tell you kids to not study, like, do well in school, like, don't do what I did, but like, if something comes up and it's like gonna be a one-time thing and you know it is, like, there are some experiences that like you will remember for a long time, and that for me, like, it was worth it to see Coldplay for me, like, for that, like, D or F on the test that I got.
Stay in school unless it's Coldplay. That's our official stand.
The only time you can skip a day of school for go to exams.
Only Coldplay.
Only for Coldplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what my like very vivid memory of like my attachment to this album and to Coldplay as a whole was like that whole era of my life.
Nice.
The early 2010s, and then that kind of was my entryway to the music, the larger music world as a whole. But anyway, I wanted to go back to you because you were talking about
your story about the concert reminded me that they had a very distinct like visual style during that era. They had all the jackets and stuff and like
the uniforms.
And I had totally forgotten about this, but I think for Halloween in like 2009 or whatever, I went dressed as Chris Martin.
Oh my, wait, do you have pictures?
I wish I could find them.
What?
I was
Get this
I was
guy to
trying
post
get
pictures.
This, find them when I was doing my research. But
Go follow us on Twitter, nostalgia_beat, and I'll get this guy to post pictures of this.
My parents probably have pictures of that, so I'll try and ask them. But
that's so amazing.
yeah,
though.
I remember we went to a bunch of stores because like obviously no one was selling like reproduction like French Revolutionary jackets or whatever. So we ended up at Hot Topic and I got one of their like edgy jackets.
Of course.
And then like they had the like, you know, the colored stripes on the front.
Yeah.
So I think we just did that in with Sharpie. And then Chris Martin had like all the bands of color on his arm. So we just had like random fabric scraps. Wow. And we just tied those on my arm. And then nobody knew who I was. It was great. It was so funny.
That's the downside to being a music nerd, is like you can come up with the most genius like musical like reference or costume or something, and then like you'll try to make a joke about it or like make a reference, and then just no one will understand you.
Yeah, and it's funny because like Coldplay was like the biggest band in the world at the time, but you know people heard them on the radio, but like only the fans really knew what they were wearing at their concerts.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I walked onto the street dressed as like Thomas Dolby, She Blinded Me with Science Era stuff, people would just be like, "Oh, it's a mad scientist costume." I'd be like, "No,
it's my boy.
It's my boy." Or like, I mean, there's some people like like outfits like Devo, something like that.
That's
like
true.
the Energy Domes or whatever. But then yeah, like Ben Gibbard.
Yeah.
It's just like any other sad white guy in a flannel t-shirt, which is basically everybody in Seattle. So like,
true.
Like it's harder to dress as like, but you would think at the very least with Coldplay, maybe MCR might be another one you might recognize.
That's true.
With like because
that was very popular.
Yeah. That
was very distinctive. But yeah, man. What a time.
What a time,
I
yeah.
can't believe I forgot I dressed up as Chris Martin. That's so funny to me.
I mean, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I think you mentioned it before, but I'm remembering now that was a thing that happened. Honestly,
it was a real thing.
Like your Coldplay nerd points just shot up. Like you're super Coldplay nerd.
Yes. I will still defend Coldplay to this day.
Oh, we in this household we stan Coldplay. This is the part of the podcast where we address the Coldplay haters. Look, it's time we had a little chat.
It is.
I get that you don't like every band in the world. It's cool. It's fine. It's sometimes it's fun to be like, hey, fuck Nickelback, right? I personally hate Nickelback, but like making fun of every single person who likes, or like the second you say a word about Coldplay, having your like entire music taste like put into question is so bullshit. Or like, and this is with any band. I mean, Coldplay's the example we're using. But if you're like judging people because of one band that they like, especially a band like Coldplay, who I swear people base like a lot of their like opinions on Coldplay on like the singles that they've heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And especially more recent stuff where they got like super pop. And like I don't love a lot of their recent stuff, but like that doesn't like negate the fact they made some amazing albums in like,
Coldplay's good.
90s. And Coldplay's good actually. That's our hot take.
Coldplay is valid.
Coldplay is valid, and if you stan Coldplay, you are valid.
But yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you have anything more to add to like the whole hatred and.
If you don't like Coldplay, we will ban you from our chat. That's a joke, by the way.
If you dislike any of the bands we talk about.
That is true.
Yeah, you have to like the exact same music as
If you don't have our exact same opinions, then we will ban you. I'm sorry.
In fact, we'll ban each other because we each
true,
have different musical opinions.
We'll start our own podcast. It's fine.
We'll each start separate podcasts at the same time, and it'll be like competing podcasts, right?
I think that'll work.
You'll be able to hear the other. Like we have two microphones, and you're like, "Hi, I'm Mark with the Nostalgia Beat." I'm like, "Hi, I'm Dee with Nostalgia Beat 2.0," and like you hear ourselves talking over it. I'm going off onto this tangent. This is not. No, this is content. This is what people watch
signed up
podcasts for.
They want the tangents. They want our bullshit.
They want
our blood family out there listening.
The blood family. We're related by blood.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, everyone.
Yeah, that is true. All right.
Now, like, sorry, I don't want to take from you. Do you have like you don't want? No, who's gonna go?
No, you go.
I was just gonna. I was gonna go from there, and it's kind of all related, but I wanted to know how the album holds up now.
Of course.
Yes.
I think it holds up very well. I've listened to this album like 3 or 4 times in the week leading up to this episode, and I still really loved it. I think all the choices they made musically were all really smart and really enhanced their sound without moving too far away from their kind of the core identity of Coldplay's music, which is like big anthemic stuff, like Chris Martin's weird lyrics, and then like talking about love and stuff, which is like really
and
what
death.
You go to Coldplay for. And
love and death.
They introduced death in this album, which is fun. But yeah, I think it all still works really well. I think the varied instrumentation really helped them a lot. I was reading about all the different things they did to kind of add a little variety to their sound. I think one of the coolest things they did was in Lovers in Japan, which features a tack piano, which is just like an altered normal piano, but they add like thumbtacks or nails are placed on the hammers, so it's like more percussive.
Is that what that is?
That's what that is.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's like the famous riff from Lovers in Japan. Is a tack piano.
Lovers. Is this karaoke? You can keep on the
Yes.
road you're on. Okay, I'm done.
But yeah, so I think that's really cool. They did a lot of stuff like that where they kind of branched out and added new forms of instrumentation that they haven't really used before. And stuff like, one thing I did want to bring up too was Yes and Chinese Sleep Chant. Obviously, those are really kind of famous examples from this album of them really branching out and trying new sounds. Obviously, Chinese Sleep Chant is kind of their like shoegaze song, basically. But what I learned in my research, and I didn't know this before, was apparently Brian Eno's favorite song on the album, which is really cool.
Really?
And I can kind of see it, like, I'm sure he loves the layering of sound and all the shoegazy elements and stuff.
That's his like
which makes
bread
a lot
and
of
butter.
sense. And apparently it's Will Champion's least favorite song at
Well,
the same time.
now you know.
Which is very funny.
Brian Eno versus Will Champion, who will win in a fight.
1v1.
1v1.
Yeah.
1v1 me, bro.
Exactly. It's all good. All the songs here I really enjoy. I think they're also unique in a way that isn't often the case with Coldplay albums. Like I hate to keep ragging on X and Y. I don't hate it as much as some of the critics do, but it does get a little tiring to listen to because it is the ideas and like the sonic landscape is pretty repetitive in that album, and that's just not the case with Viva la Vida.
Oh, they're really, two very different things.
They really branch out and they try new things, and I think it's really cool to see.
Absolutely.
Good for them.
Good for Coldplay.
Still holds up. Still rules.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy, I love X and Y. I have some of my favorite Coldplay songs are on X and Y, but it's true that as a whole, the album is pretty samey. Like, it sounds the same. Viva la Vida, like, you really do, like, it's almost like a contradictory, like, in its cohesiveness, like, you have, like, such disparate sounds, and we talked about, like, you really, like, were, like, pushing a bunch of, like, different songs together, and you really hear, like, every aspect. I mean, you can't play every musical style, but you really hear a bunch of different musical styles.
Yes, exactly. One thing I do want to point out about the songs they kind of mashed together, that was also inspired by Justin Timberlake, whose name weirdly came up a bunch in my research on this album, but apparently because of, like, they were inspired by the album title Future Sex Love Sounds. They liked it was two concepts, like, mashed together, so they did that on this album.
What? Okay.
And the percussion in Lost was in part inspired by the Timbaland percussion in Crimea River, which is interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
I can kind of see it because they both kind of rattle around, and there are a lot of, like, interesting elements that build up this beat. It's not like a typical, like, drum kit to get that sound. But I would have never really realized that without having done research into that and hearing it from the band themselves.
That's crazy. What are your favorite tracks? Like, your favorite tracks on the album?
Oh, man. That's tough. Strawberry Swing is really good. I love that song.
The music video for that one's
music
really
video is
too.
Also very cute.
Very, like, it was stop motion, like, animation, and, like,
super creative.
and, like, chalk and stuff, if I remember correctly. That was like during the iTunes era too. That was back when you could like get free music videos on iTunes and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, good times. But
what a different time.
What a different time. Wow.
Yeah, Strawberry Swing, absolutely great song.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a great Frank Ocean cover off of his Nostalgia Ultra mixtape.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, it's super good. It's very sad. So get ready for that. But yeah, really excellent. Also, I did a lot of research, as you can tell.
Oh, this guy did a lot of research.
The British Academy of Sound Therapy, they did a study that showed that Strawberry Swing is one of the most psychologically relaxing songs ever recorded.
What?
Yeah, I don't know how they did that.
How can you objectively measure that, though? Because you would have to
I think it was a survey, so they did they probably work with a bunch of sound therapy people. I don't know what you call those, sound therapists.
Sound therapists?
In Britain.
Audio
and they,
therapists?
yeah, something like that.
I don't know.
But yeah, from those surveys, I think it was the 5th most relaxing song of all time.
Wow, what was the first most relaxing song?
I don't know. I should look that up. But yeah,
we'll get back to you on that.
Quite fascinating.
That's crazy.
And it makes sense. I mean, it's such a gentle song, and that guitar riff is so sunny and airy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's a great one.
So that one, obviously, one of my favorites.
That's fantastic.
I know Viva la Vida has been super overplayed, but it still really works on me.
Oh yeah.
I think the string riff is really cool. It's apparently a string riff and a string section and a digital piano, which is cool.
That's cool.
Probably to fill out the sound, because it doesn't sound like just strings when you hear it.
But the strings are definitely super apparent, and I feel like it really gives that super orchestral
oh yeah, it's so
king of the world
yeah, it's such a
ruling
huge
class. I don't know what I'm going. Guillotine. Sorry.
Yeah,
the album cover just always. I see this album and I want to start a revolution every time.
Exactly.
The cover of the album. And the text, the way they paint it on, the text, it's so
it's so cool.
It's so guttural's not the word I'm looking for. It's like a caveman,
Yeah, it's very visceral.
Visceral, that's the word. Thank you. He got it. Visceral. It's such a visceral.
No, I absolutely agree.
Font. And then speaking of revolutionary stuff, I know I was doing a little bit of research, not as much as he did, but I read that apparently Violet Hill, they considered it one of their first anti-war revolutionary songs. Yeah, I don't know if you'd have any more notes on that one.
I do. They well, not that many, but the lyrics, they have a line about fox
primal.
in there.
The word's primal. That's the word I was looking for.
Primal.
Nice. But visceral is also pretty close. Yeah.
But yeah, they have lyrics in Violet Hill kind of referencing Fox, Fox News, and how they have too much influence, which is funny. And yeah, it's definitely one of their more lyrically, I guess intense would be the word, because usually Chris Martin is a very introspective kind of soft guy.
Yeah.
But here
soft
he
boy.
Yeah, really.
Hashtag soft boy.
But here he's taking shots, which is cool.
Yeah, that song to me was if I don't mean to take it away from you.
No,
you're talking about your favorites. That's one of my favorites on the album. Yeah. I think that one reminds me of just. I mean, I didn't realize the kind of anti-war protest song kind of aspect of it when I was a kid, but it just felt so visceral to use that word, and actually in a way that I want to use it. And just the imagery in that song too.
Oh yeah, it's great.
It reminds me I remember playing that song on a trip up to the mountains once in high school. We were going camping or something, and it was the snow was melting or something, but you could see the snow on the hills, and that song was playing in my really crappy iPod earphones with my iPod my iPod Nano. Good times. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember having a little iPod Nano, and you had the cute little screen, and it showed the
Which version of the Nano did you have? I
had 2 of them. I think by that point I'm not sure. I might have already had the red one that was this large, because there were 2 of them. There was the Nanos that were this big, right? That were kind of rectangular, and then had the larger screen and then the click wheel. Then there's the ones that were longer rectangles that had the screen that if you wanted to watch a music video, you had to turn it to the side, which was kind of weird. Yeah. But then they also still had the click wheel. This is before the Touch, obviously, but like,
Right. I remember I had an even older iPod Nano. It was the really skinny ones, the long ones with like the tiny square screen and the click wheel.
oh, I had that one as
that,
well.
Yeah.
Well,
that
that was the first, like one of the original iPod Nanos. That was also my first.
Very close to start. That one was cool. I like that device a lot.
I wish
served me well.
There's like a part of me that still like longs for the days of iPods and like and not
cool.
even like because like an iPhone, like look, it like this thing, it has like every song I could ever want on it. Like everything's here. But it's not the same as
I agree.
Like a device that's specifically
talk about
like,
nostalgia, man.
Oh yeah, well this is the nostalgia beat. We should just have an episode just about like
that'd be really cool.
Like nostalgic music technology.
Oh yeah.
I think it's all related. I feel like our nostalgia for the iPod is the same kind of feeling that I feel, the reason that I have a record player, because like this kind of music technology, like as much as like all I could ever need, like if I have a computer and phone, I don't need anything else to appreciate music, even just a phone. But there's something about like, as music fans, like there's something about appreciating like music like in its like purest like whole form, like without taking like without adding anything to it, just the music itself. And I feel like technology like iPods and like record players, they're about the music and they're not about anything else. They're not about like some extra like auxiliary thing. It's just the music.
So, I do like that. There weren't like many frills to the original iPods, and that was really cool. It was just there to organize your music. Yeah. And that's it. And like the whole click wheel was designed just for navigating your music, which was very cool. And it was,
And it did its job. Like I, like as a kid, I mean, again, like iPhones when they came out, it was amazing. And like the iPod Touch and games and all that stuff. But it's just the simplicity of the click wheel.
Yeah.
Ugh, my heart.
We'll definitely do an iPod episode.
We should talk about iPods. Okay, make a note of that right now. We're going to talk about iPods. But I remember listening on my iPod to Violet Hill. I also remember listening. Cemeteries of London was another one that really got me. I was like, this is what Halloween sounds like, you know, like I can see like Halloween in London, like I'm wandering through a cemetery, like screw you, Morrissey, fuck you and like your cemetery gates. No, you like fascist, like asshole. Like no, this is all about Coldplay. In this house, we stand Coldplay.
It's true. Apparently, Chris Martin was reading a bunch of Dickens novels at the time, and that was a big inspiration for Cemeteries of London, which makes sense.
It absolutely does. It sounds like it's from a Dickens novel. Yeah. And while we're talking about like the lyrical content of these songs, I loved the lyrics to Viva la Vida, and I felt like again, speaking of cohesiveness, there was a lot of lines. I'm trying to remember. Feet not touching the ground. That was a line that came up a couple times. Yeah, they kind of
repeat that one. And even that's like a step above a lot of their other albums of like repeating lyrical themes, which is, another good touch that they did.
I think that's really the overall like theme of this album is just how cohesive it was in every regard, musically, like lyrically, and even how it's not exactly the same as an album like say Transatlanticism that like when you end the album it like seamlessly plays again. Yeah. But you have the I had to make a Death Cab reference. I understand. It's in my nature. But the last song, what's the last song? We have to remind me.
Yeah. Death and All His Friends, and then the hidden track, The Escapist.
The hidden track. Yeah. So the hidden track just goes, and it doesn't loop perfectly, but it's the same ending as the start of Life in Technicolor, which also got like a second version with lyrics in like do you want to talk about Prospect March at all? Should we like?
We should probably talk about Prospect March.
While he talks about that, my computer's dying. I should have looked at this earlier. He's going to talk about Prospect March. I'll be right back.
Dee's leaving me by myself.
This is so
please don't hit the cords.
Oh, but I got to show you my shirt again.
Oh yeah, check out that shirt. Really it's very cool.
In a focus, but go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, I guess I will be talking about Prospect March. So basically, that was an EP they released shortly after the release of Viva la Vida. It was your standard kind of B-side release, but it also included the song Life in Technicolor 2, which was a longer version of Life in Technicolor, which is the intro track on Viva la Vida. And, this version was extended, had lyrics, all that, all those good things. And what was interesting about this is that they intentionally kept this version of the song off the original album. I forget who in the band said this, but they said they didn't want the obvious single in Life in Technicolor 2 to start off their album. And they wanted an instrumental introduction to the album itself. And I find that really interesting because, you know, so many of the songs, not only did so many of the songs on Viva la Vida become huge hits anyway, but Life in Technicolor 2 is a fantastic track. It is honestly one of my favorite songs from around this era. I think the instrumentation on the song is really interesting. I was, again, this came up in my research, but they used a lot of interesting instruments in this one. They had the santoor, which is like an Indian hammered dulcimer instrument. Hammered dulcimer just means that it's like a percussive stringed instrument. You know, something hits a string and it makes a sound. And it also had like tabla-esque drums. So it creates a pretty unique sonic landscape there. Again, like most of the tracks from around this era in Coldplay's time, history rather, is pretty unlike anything they've ever done before. And the lyrical content of Life in Technicolor 2, oh, Dee is back.
Sorry,
Dee has the charger.
I have the charger.
Let's go.
Here we go.
All right.
You guys see the back of my
Oh yeah, you can see if you can read all of the cities. Pause and see if you can read all the cities on the back.
Pause, yeah.
But yeah, Life in Technicolor 2, really good.
The music video for that one too was really fun. I don't know if you saw the music video with like the puppets.
Yes, that one is very funny. Really great. Yeah, I understand their hesitation to add it to the actual album, but it's such a good song.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's so good. And I do want to shout out from Prospects March.
The Jay-Z rap
Plus.
on
yeah,
it. We were thinking the same thing.
So funny. Like, it's good. Like, it works really well because, like, the drum beat on Lost is so strong.
Yeah.
And, like, it works for, like, a hip-hop track. But I remember, like, being so shocked they got Jay-Z on one of their songs.
And then, like, now they're, like, friends with Beyonce and Jay-Z, too.
Yeah.
It's just so funny.
They all know each other.
I mean, at that point, when you're, like, that big of a musician, like,
Yeah.
you guys are all going to know each other. But, yeah.
But still, what a wild thing they did. It's so funny.
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
Absolutely. How do you feel about Prospects March?
Oh, I loved Prospects March.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Rainy Day was one of those songs I blasted a lot, especially when it was raining, because it sounded like it was actually the sound of rain.
Yes, exactly.
I'm trying to remember what else was on Prospects March that I really enjoyed.
Here, let me bring up here's the track list here, if you could see that.
I mean, there were some songs, it's clear, like, that it wasn't supposed to go in, like, the main album. I mean, like, it doesn't fit the way the rest of the songs do, but I honestly, none of them were bad songs. Like, none of them I was, like, straight up like, this sucks. But yeah, Life in Technicolor 2 was fantastic. So Rainy Day, I really like. Lost Plus was great. Yeah, just, I enjoyed it a lot.
It's really good.
It's great. Yeah.
Also want to mention the live album of Viva la Vida.
Right.
It's called Left,
Left. They gave us free copies of that on the tour. Like, they literally handed out CDs of cool. Like it was crazy. Yeah. That was God. Sorry, I love Coldplay. Now I'm just going back. Speaking of nostalgia, going back to that night, and like that was also the first time I saw T-shirts that were like $45.
Oh yeah.
This is like a $45
Truly
T-shirt.
ripped.
But I mean, look, it's lasted over a decade, so. I mean, cost per wear, it made sense in the end. It worked out.
Exactly.
And like, when we're here today talking about this album, so I'm glad this was a good purchase.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Even though sometimes I'll be like, oh right, I have a lady who's just full on tits out. You know what? Like, power to her. Viva la Revolution.
I know it's obviously like a very, classic painting, but it is funny that they did get like just full-on titties on like a super mainstream album.
They got titties on the album cover.
That's so funny.
They did it.
Good for them.
Good
honestly.
for them. Okay, so I went to France in 2011.
Yeah.
And so I was still, I mean, obviously, like, only a couple years, like, since the release of Viva la Vida, I went to Paris and I went to the Louvre. I'm learning French and Duolingo. I'll get it. And I stood in front of the actual painting, which
nice.
the name of it, it's, do you have it
I
written
have
down?
it. Where
Of course
is it?
you do.
Liberty leading the people.
Liberty leading the people.
Yes.
I have a picture of me, a huge nerd with like braces on and
Oh,
like
excellent.
and like a really oversized like sweater or whatever, sweatshirt, like smiling like in front of that painting because I was so excited. It's a giant painting, like it's a giant canvas.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's
I love
amazing. Yeah. And definitely really cool. If you're ever in Paris, if you're ever in Paris, just something to check out. Yeah.
One day we'll be allowed to
Cash.
leave our country.
Yeah, if we're allowed to leave.
Yeah.
So that's what we need. Check our Twitter. Follow us on Twitter,
Yes.
nostalgia_beat. Mark will find a picture of him wearing his Chris Martin costume.
Yeah, I will try my hardest.
And then I will
With
find
a
a picture
cool
of
jacket.
me, maybe one from my first Coldplay concert, if I can find that. I don't know if I can find them, but if they exist, I'll find one. But really, I'll post the picture of me standing in front of Liberty leading the people in Paris.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please follow our Twitter and please follow us on Twitch. Again, because we are a blood family now, I think, you have a familial obligation to follow what we do.
Exactly.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Much love to all our fans who are our legitimate family.
Exactly. We're actually related to you.
Speaking
check
of which,
check your ancestry.com
yeah, exactly.
stuff. What? 24.
Check the genealogy.
No, 23 and me. That's
24
and me.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, 24 and me.
That's fine.
That's fine. It's fine. This is fine.
But yeah, speaking of our fans, should we read the chat?
Yeah, let's
Also,
go through the
please,
chat.
any questions you have for us, or if you have any memories associated with the Viva la Vida, feel free to post them in the chat. Let's see.
Is that no here? Chat's over here. Let's look in the chat.
What do we have in the chat?
What is people? Well, looks like there's one person.
Thank you, Urban Lime.
We have Via Girl. I think I know who that is, but I don't recognize the username, so you have to tell me who you are if you're still here. I don't want to say a name and then be wrong, because I think I knew who that is, but how old were we when this album came out? It was 2008, so we're in our mid-20s, mid to late 20s. So
yeah, we're early teens.
Early
which
teens.
Is weird.
Yeah.
A weird time for everyone.
Early teens.
What do you got? Oh, thank you for the compliment on my shirt. It is very cool.
Sexy zebra shirt.
Yes.
Studying for OCamp for an anime convention, Liver Dreams, MCR. Never was a big MCR fan. Is that like a hot take? Do we go into MCR at some point?
We should.
We should talk about,
Probably the Black Parade.
Black Parade, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that
we'll
at some
review that
point.
at some point. That'll be a future episode.
I never had an emo, I guess like pop punk. I never had an
fair.
emo phase.
Oh man, I had a huge emo phase. I'm gonna make you listen to one of the screamo albums I listened to. A lot in high school. It's gonna be like Loma Prieta or something. It's gonna be great.
That's the name of an earthquake that happened.
Yes, it was.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love earthquakes. That's completely unrelated, but what else? Other comments do we have?
It's Moloch.
It's Malika. Hi, Malika.
Let's see. Oh, Future Sex Love Sounds is a banger of an album. It is. It absolutely is. We will probably also cover that album at some point because I listened to it a lot when I was, younger.
I would love to listen to it. I never really spent a lot of time with Justin Timberlake stuff. So.
It's really interesting. I mean, he's helped a lot by Timbaland's production because he's so good at every aspect of production, obviously. But
when I think of Timbaland, I think of like
so
Apologize.
Yeah.
By One Republic. That's
he
unrelated.
did a lot to that song.
He did.
Let's see what else we got. Urban Lime had a video, the first gen touch, fourth gen touch, and every other iPhone since the 3G. Wow. That is
dedication.
Intense. I also had the first. Yes, I had the first gen touch too. It was really cool. Yeah. I spent so much time just like. I jailbroke it and I downloaded a bunch of games.
Oh my gosh. See, my parents asked if I wanted a touch and I didn't want a touch because I was so in love with my iPod and I wanted to cherish it for as long as I could. My a little iPod Nano. So I was a purist in that regard.
Absolutely. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasies cover is still censored on Spotify. I didn't know that actually.
So if you have classic art on your band's album art.
You just gotta go with what's his face, Eugene Delacroix.
Oh my God, Eugene Delacroix. Yeah, just get more Eugene Delacroix. How many paintings do you think he has with titties full out? Is that something we should look up? My parents watched this podcast. They watched our last podcast.
Yeah, my parents do too. It's fine.
Oh no.
This is classic art. So we're appreciating the art.
We're discussing, this is art
is
history
important culture.
time. This is
Yes.
We're talking about culture.
Art history corner with Mark and Dee.
Art history corner. We rename the podcast.
Yeah,
we
that'll
should
work
just
well.
have like a section, like a what's it called? Like a pop-up screen that's like, now it's time for art history,
really.
and then like we actually talk about the album art. That would be cute. Great
That
idea.
would be fun.
So
that is a good idea. Album art is cool.
album art's awesome.
What else do we got? Do we have a sponsor segment yet? If there are any sponsors out there, we like money, so
Give us your money.
yeah. As long as your product doesn't suck. So
Yeah, as long as
that's the only criteria.
you're not that sketched.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even gonna name the people who I wouldn't accept money from
I know.
because I'm not gonna give them free promo.
Let's see. Oh, it's Viola Girl. That makes sense. I also play the viola for any listeners who didn't know that. I think
you
that's
play the
probably
viola.
one of the reasons I really liked Arcade Fire and Viva la Vida. It's like, wow, strings and rock music.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Orchestral rock. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
I didn't know they could do that.
And they did it.
But yeah.
And they did it. Is there anything else we want to talk about?
Urban Lime wants
Lime?
to be a part of the Black Parade review. Yeah, absolutely. Once we figure out how to do that on while we stream.
We could probably
We'll
have like a
definitely do it.
Discord call.
Yeah,
and,
we'll
like,
have a Discord call. We could probably even try and show video if
we could figure that
trust
out.
our
Yeah.
internet. But yeah, Discord call is fine. Great.
We should absolutely, if you guys have albums that you care a lot about and you want us to cover
Oh,
them,
yeah.
we are absolutely down to do that. And we want to like feature your segments. Like, if anyone had come to us and been like, "Look, this is my story with Viva la Vida," like this. In fact, wait, she didn't give me permission to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. My friend Anna.
Are you gonna dox your friend?
I'm gonna dox my friend. my friend Anna earlier.
Excellent.
Sorry, Anna, I'm calling you out if you do watch this. I know you were watching some of the first podcast. I posted about
Wow.
the episode we were having earlier, and she mentioned that she got flashbacks of the copy of Rolling Stone that she had with Chris on the cover, because he was her old celeb crush in 2008. The year 28, year 2008. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we all, I feel like a lot of us had a lot of strong feelings about music in our teens, and if there are albums, I mean even before that too, like albums that you really want to talk about, and you might like, especially if we know you and you want to talk about an album and you want us to talk about it with you, reach out to us. We'd love to do that. And if you have thoughts about Viva la Vida that you didn't get to share, that like we didn't talk about in this episode, please talk to us about them. Like if we have time, maybe we'll talk about them in the next episode, like before we get started. Because we'd love to hear like your experiences, because I think that's one of the coolest things about like music is just hearing everybody's experiences with like one singular song and how like differently it affects different people.
Absolutely, yeah. Please let us know about those, and we want to build a community here. So yeah, we will absolutely feature the albums that you suggest to us, and And before Raid Shadow, Raid Shadow Legends, please give us your billions of dollars that you seem to have in marketing money. It seems to be endless, so I'm sure you could give us like a couple $1,000.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the podcast?
Let's see if I have any more fun facts here. I
noticed something about the French Revolution. I love the French Revolution, so if you have any thoughts.
Oh yeah, Chris Martin was also reading Les Mis at the time.
Oh my gosh,
which, I mean,
that's what I wanted to hear.
Sense. Yeah.
Do you hear the people sing? It all feels really like relevant, to the times right now.
Very true.
Anyway.
So we got that. What other fun facts do I have? There's something cool in here.
In before someone's like, "D, you're so cringe." Yeah, like that's my brand. So just like get over it. I know. I've tried to stop, and I've been like this since I was a kid. So it's too late.
Okay, wait. I have two more fun facts.
Before we wrap up.
One, Strawberry Swing. The hand claps you hear at the beginning are literally Brian Eno's, and he. Fun fact, he always had a problem with the tempo of their songs. He always wanted them to be slower, which I find very...
That's such a
Brian Eno thing
That's
to
such
do.
a Brian Eno.
This
like
ambient boy.
I was gonna say ambient boy, fucking music for airports or whatever.
Really wants to
in
slow
like
down
in like
Coldplay
what
songs.
freaking like time signature? I don't even know.
I know,
or
really.
Like 16 something. I don't know.
Yeah, wanted to slow everything down, which is very funny. And then last fun fact on Death and All His Friends. Apparently Brian Eno just really wanted to finish that one. He was just obsessed with the song, wanted to get it done. And he even provided the lyric, I don't want a cycle of recycled revenge. Which is cool, because that's like one of the most memorable lines from that song.
Revenge. Yeah, absolutely.
Eno is truly a legend, what can I say?
Yeah, Eno really made this album. And so people who like are straight up like ready to like dismiss, that's another thing I remind people. I'm like, look, like Brian Eno worked with this band. Like that says something, I'm just going to say. And
he doesn't work with just like anybody.
He doesn't work with anybody. So like he clearly had a certain level of faith in them. So
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Or he just like hypnotizes them to do what he wanted.
He just wanted an excuse to hypnotize. And that's like that is what we're gonna come to. That is the main theme of this podcast, is that if you want someone to do something for you, you just hypnotize them.
Yeah.
Just kidding, don't.
Shout out to Brian, we're all gonna
please
get
their consent. Consent's important.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't hypnotize your friend. Although in order to truly hypnotize someone, they actually do have to consent. That's like a thing. So anyway. Hypnosis is cool. I've been doing a lot of research on it for completely separate reasons. I just think it's fascinating. Anyway.
Fair. Yeah. Well, now you have another reason. It's because Coldplay did it.
I'm gonna read about this. I'm gonna read about this after. Yeah.
I couldn't find that many details on it, sadly, but like they did it, which is great. It's so funny.
So ridiculous.
But yeah.
All right. Well,
I think that about concludes our discussion on Viva la Vida. Clearly one of our favorite albums.
Oh, we did not have an issue talking about how much we love this album.
Again, as Dee was saying, please give us suggestions for our next episode. If not, you'll have to hear us talk about one of the albums we chose again.
Yeah, maybe. I already thought of some. I'm like, we can do Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
We can do it In the Air.
I know, I've been thinking about all the albums we could do.
Yeah, so
many. I could force Dee to listen to Muse. That'd be funny.
Oh my god, and I've talked before about how I'm not a big Muse fan. So
yeah, so, but yeah, thank you for joining us. Again, please follow our Twitch channel. Also follow us on Twitter at nostalgia_beat. And we'll be back here same time next week.
5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Mm-hmm. Pacific Daylight Time, right? PDT? Because it's daylight time. That's that time.
Time zones are weird.
Time zones are crazy. Yeah. 5 p.m. We will be here talking about an album that means a lot to us today and meant a lot to us back years ago.
In the past.
In the past.
The distant past.
The distant past. Oh, we're so old. God. Oh, no, we're so old. Okay.
Yeah. Soon we will meet Death and All His Friends.
Oh, God. Wow. And that's how we have to end it there.
On that note.
On that note.
Thank you for joining us.
Have a lovely evening, everybody. We will see you next week.
Yep.